Hello, everybody. This is another Peak Careers interview, and this is a follow-up to in January. We did an interview with four people. One person couldn't make it today, but it was really looking at this. How do you choose your words? These three words, and how do you go about doing it? And what do the words mean to them? And I really wanted to circle back and do a 6-month checkup to sort of see how everybody's doing. So once again, we've got Dina and Renee and Rob here, and these folks. Dina she's mobile. She's in Georgia, but she's living the military dream. And I don't think I've read this article. Did you post this was this in NCDA, Dina?
Yes, it was in the NCDA.
I'll have to grab that, but she's authored the article, Opportunity Found Chaos Theory for Military Spouse Employment. Renee is the Director of Career Services at Castleton University in Vermont, and Rob Hatch is co-founder and president and owner of Media Group. So that's who we have here today, and right now we're just gonna jump in and sort of say what's going on. So you picked these words, and how's it going now, or any surprises, and sort of just check in. Renee?
All right, hi. So my words: accept, flow, and possibility were the three words that I selected. And I've definitely focused on them, and they've been really helpful this year, a lot actually, both personally and professionally, especially with accept and flow. I've really been so mindful of just accepting things as they come, whatever they are, even those negative things and surprises, and just really doing my best to go with the flow and not resist what's happened. So I'm actually really grateful that I did select those two in particular this year, just because there have been it's been a very challenging year, of course, for all of us. So I have a feeling that those two words are going to remain on my list for a while, even, maybe even years from now, because I've found that they've been really helpful, those two in particular. And then possibility was my other, and that one I haven't focused so much on as the other two, but I had originally said, regarding possibility, just being more open to possibilities in general. And so the year's not over yet, so maybe that's the one. Now that we're getting back into our more normal routines, I'm hoping that one will present itself more. We'll have more possibilities to talk about at the end of the year.
More possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Robin, you had said, I think in our last one, about how these words don't end at the end of the year, right? I mean, they're there forever, aren't they? I mean, it's a year focus, but I remember you saying that, and I was like, that is so true for me.
Yeah, I feel like there's some that stick around longer, right? But once you've chosen that, and I feel like it's just a building block for each stage. And so you don't go and like wipe away all that you've built, and it helps you along the way. So I don't keep those prior year words in front of me in the same way, because I have new meaning with the new words. But yeah, they are in fact always there. And I was just reflecting last night, both in preparation for the call, but also in we have a mastermind group at Owner Media, and we were doing this very same thing, kind of checking in with members and reflecting on the three words and seeing where they were and how it's going. And it was just interesting to hear all the different variations of it. But some people, like, you were saying, you kind of keep your words year to year. Some people carry them over. They work so well, they want to carry them over, and that's fine. So I think,
Rob, you're on a roll here. So go ahead. What were your words this year, and what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, my words, and I write them down every day. They were deep, well, and steady. And one of the questions I asked last night was, do people tend to choose more aspirational or inspirational words, or do they choose words that are more grounding? And I've done both. This was a year of grounding for me. I needed to really make sure the systems and the sort of all of the foundations and pieces were in place for whatever's coming next. And so it's been a year of gathering, what I need. The sort of deep was about deepening my knowledge in service of my clients, making sure that I'm spending time learning and deepening, not just relying on old skills that I know I have. I got to find a way to make them better in service to my clients. So well was about wellness, but also knowing that I have a well of relationships to go to for support. So reaching out for support, particularly over this last year. It's not something I'm great at, but I've definitely gotten better, particularly in my family relationships with my spouse. And Steady as well was all about, how do I just make sure that everything is going to keep moving the way it should, so that then I have this platform to launch from. And it's worked really, they've all worked really well, and fits in starts sometimes. It's not a perfect system all the time, but they're always guideposts for me. They remind me when I'm a little off track, or if I'm a little scattered, I go to my 3 words, and they're like a filter for my attention. Where is this going? What am I doing things to deepen my knowledge? Am I taking care of myself and my relationships? And am I doing the work that I need to make sure that all the systems that run my life are in place, so that I can do bigger things? So they've worked really well.
I thought that's an interesting word, is the filter, and I hadn't thought about it, but that's kind of what I do. It is sort of that lens, a filter that you sort of look at every day, right? I mean, and
yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah.
There was one person who last night had 3 words, and it was specifically one filtered right into the next. Does it meet this criteria? Does it meet this criteria? Does it meet this criteria? It was really interesting to hear him articulate that. Mine don't sort of flow necessarily in the same way, or I don't apply them exactly in the same way. But again, when I get off track in any way, shape, or form, I have to get back to these words and say, what did I set out to do? Why did I choose these words? Am I doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing? And they'll just reorient me like a compass.
Yeah. It's like, you can do goals, your goal statements and all that, but these are, I don't know, they're subtler, but they're just easier too. They're just easier than a goal where you have to flesh it out a little bit. And that's awesome. Dina, let's hear your words and some perceptions of what's going on right now, 6 months later.
I was listening to Rob talk about whether it's, grounding or aspirational, and I'm revisiting my words this year. They were all very aspirational. They definitely built off of last year's, but mine were to revitalize, to look at that work-life balance, to take care of my mental health and my physical health, and adapt. Get comfortable with limbo is what I wrote on my little sheet, because I keep them by my desk so that I can look at them daily, and I have them, they're actually my home screen on my personal computer, so it pops up every time I come on, but I have a little description under each word just to remind myself why I chose this word and why it mattered. So being good with limbo has turned out to be really impactful this year. And then explore, expanding professionally and personally. And I feel like at the 6-month mark, I've done really good with adapt and explore. I think COVID, the world, the way things have worked, everything professionally and personally has had to look a little bit different, which means I've had to explore different ways to do it. I instruct, so I had to look at different ways to teach, different ways to ensure that, my participants are getting the same that they would have gotten when we were in class and we were together, and how can I adjust and make it better for them? Even with my personal life, with my children, I have 2 that are in college and one's that away. How does she do her job search from where she's at when she got laid off? Because she was part of the big layoffs that happened. with COVID? How do we look and find a new job in this new area? So there's so many different ways that I was almost forced to explore that I hadn't even thought about when I chose the word, because I've learned for myself, reflection back, that this has been challenging and trying for everybody, I'm sure. But it has also offered a lot of opportunity that I would have never thought of. And it pushed me into lanes I would have never thought of going into. So just in a professional, without getting too detailed, it's allowed me to grow. And I had a coworker reach out to me yesterday after a training and tell me that I had blossomed. And that probably meant more to me than he will ever know that it meant. To him, it was just a flyaway comment. To me, it was confirmation, and it was kind of good timing, because I was already thinking about my words a lot in prep for today. And I was like, I am kind of growing and exploring, and I'm adapting. The downside of all of that exploring and adapting is I have been really not good on the revitalizing portion of it. My work-life balance with everything that we have and all those changes is not where it needs to be. And even though I have this lovely thing that pops up every morning and all these good intentions of taking 10 minutes for mindfulness and taking breaks and doing these things, I have not been good about that. And I've probably beat myself up a little bit about it, which of course doesn't help with that revitalization. But I reminded myself this morning, and I was happy to hear Renee say the same thing, that I still have 6 months and that I can make a little bit of a change. And I think as the world itself is changing, that might open it up a little bit for me to be able to do that. So, things like I'm actually going to visit my parents for the first time in a very long time. And that's going to be just super nice to see them before we make a big move. So little things like that will definitely revitalize me. But these words this year, my words from last year, they keep building off each other. And I think I said the last time we talked, I keep them posted. I keep them with me because they're just a touch base when I start. I have Negative Nancy is who I says lives in my head. And Negative Nancy is really loud sometimes. And these words, even though they're aspirational, they can kind of ground me occasionally by reminding me how far I've come and where I want to go.
Yeah, it might have been a couple of years ago. Rob talked about how he writes his words down every day, and I try to journal every day. I mean, just days I miss, but I mean, I try to journal, even if it's just a few minutes every day, just to kind of get those words out of my head. And whenever I journal, I always start with my words. So my words this year are be, and kindness and understanding. And some, like you, they show up on my desktop. I have them on the bathroom mirror. I've got them on my photocopier here, but there's something more powerful about writing them down every day. There's something, it's like it almost grounds that word in a little bit deeper. And I don't do it every day, but a lot of days what I'll do is I'll write the word and write either something that I've already done, because I go for a walking meditation in the morning, typically, this was a great morning just to be outdoors in the woods, right? Understanding. And I might actually add a phrase, I really need to focus on this, right? And then kindness. I need to find something to do today that I can just do to help somebody, period, and I don't know what it'll, so writing it down to me is, that was a game changer, to be honest with you. For the first few years I did this, I just had them up everywhere. There's something about writing it down every day where it just sort of pounds that in. And I think the word be is for me all about mindfulness and being present and being in the moment and not letting all the craziness of the world sort of take over. And I try to be, every morning I try to go for a walk. And then every afternoon at 2:30, around 2:30, I try to take a mindfulness break. And it's just, I listen to guided meditation. Just, I stop and So B has been super powerful. I think it's built off a few of my past words. So, but that's super powerful because that's where one of my focuses. Understanding is when I'm getting frustrated, I stop and say, I need to understand this, right? I go back to my word. So it's there. And would I do that without that word? I probably would do that, probably, but with the word, I really stop and go, I need to just pause and try to understand this, where this person's coming from, or understand, what could I be missing that I don't understand, right? I mean, it's easy to, like today I went to the grocery store and some woman was parked right in front of the door. There's no parking and everything, and part of me is like, what in the heck? But you know what? I don't know if she's there to pick up her elderly mother, right? I don't know if she's there and she's dropped her husband off and he's got a cane and he can't get, I don't know, right? I mean, I that word pops up. Literally, that word popped up and I went, no judgment here. No, she's parked there. There's probably a reason. And I may not always understand, but that was the filter, right? That was my filter. And kindness comes out, but I feel a little bit like I don't want it to be a fake kindness, right? I kind of want it to, so I just let that one drip. So I'm not sure that one's hit home as much as the other, but be and understanding really hit home this year and continue every day to hit home. Other thoughts or? Yeah, go ahead.
It sounds like kindness and understanding are intertwined for you in many ways. Like that is an act of kindness, to stop yourself from getting upset. It's a kindness to yourself. It's kindness to the person, just an assumption that they are doing something that was necessary for them to be there, rather than doing something to aggrieve, selfish and that aggrieves other people. So I think that in itself is an act of kindness, and I can see why it would kind of slip by, both because you're probably you're a genuinely kind person anyway, trying to help people, but I like it as a reminder to you said earlier that, have I helped someone today? Have I, and the answer might be yes, and you didn't even realize it, which is great. But every now and then, I've got to reach out to, I want to check in with and just make sure they're okay. That I can see that being really helpful, but I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about that one.
All right, I won't.
It's easy though, right? When we feel like we're off to just start, as you were saying, Nancy gets in your head and you're like, but there is 6 months left. And similarly, you sort of ebb and flow or gravitate towards things that are serving you more. It's not a failing necessarily in you or in the word necessarily, but certain words just rise to be more important in the moment. And those other two have served you really well. I'm curious to see if the third one does rise up and serve you, not because you feel like you've got to use it, but because it becomes useful to you.
Mm-hmm. I just think it's such a simple activity. 3 words, right? Goal setting. How hard is goal setting, right? I mean, it's like, I got to get 3 months. I want to do this, and it's got to have these action steps. And then something comes in and it all blows up. And then, so now I'm a failure, but 3 words pushes me. It's either inspiring me or, like, as you said, Rob, grounding me, but it's making me better somehow. These 3 words are all designed to make me better. And they're simple. They do inspire. All of them, even the ones that ground me, inspire me.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. It was great. Other thoughts or comments on this?
I just want to say, Rob, you've inspired me because I'm part of a mastermind group, and I'm going to propose we do this together with my team.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's a useful exercise, just and again to revisit it, that whether it's writing them down every day or seeing them every day. But I find the act of writing a conscious, it pauses me even for a half second when I write them down, because the thing that comes after those three words is what I want to, is my day, my plan for tomorrow. So I usually fill out my sheet at the end of my day in preparation for tomorrow. So if the first thing I write down are those three words, then everything that comes after it has to reflect that in some way, shape, or form. So it's very intention setting in that way. And again, it's not perfect. Doesn't, but it's nice to revisit and reflect. And I find just the practice. I mean, how many years have you all been doing it? I'm just curious.
2 for me.
Each of you. 2.
This is my second student.
I want to say 7 or 8.
Yeah.
3. I think this is my 3rd year.
Yeah.
That sounds right, Renee. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel the reason I ask and bring it up is that on the call, there were lots of folks who were in that same range, anywhere from 10 years, which, I think I'm going on, it's been since 2007, up, upwards of that or first or second year. And it's one of the few end of year practices that I can look back on and say, I do this every year. Holy cow. Like that alone deserves a little pat on the back, because there aren't many things I can say that I do that, consistently.
Yeah.
I would say it definitely, the words make it easier. And I think one of the reasons it's easier to be consistent with it is I don't feel the pressure. I feel, as Jim says, with where am I going to be in 3 months? Where am I going to be in 5 months, 5 years? There's so much pressure in that directing. But my words, I don't feel a lot of pressure in them. They're aspirational, they're inspirational, they're grounding, they're all these things, but they're also flexible. So my interpretation of my own word changes throughout the year. And it's almost like sometimes it grows. Like I start with this very basic idea. Like I started with a very basic idea of what exploring was going to be. I was going to take this, if somebody said, let's go skydiving, I was going to do it instead of saying no, which I was going to do, by the way, until COVID hit. That's my excuse. But that was like my initial, at the end of the year, putting these together for the next year. It was kind of very basic, but as life has changed and personal life has changed, and professionally has changed, the world has changed. They've taken on a new meaning and a new depth. And when I think back to last year, even without the dramatics of what has happened in this last year, those still grew. If I look at my words, which I still have up here, because I keep the running list, we'll see what 10 years looks like when I get there. I can think back to when I first chose those words and the difference between where I ended up at the end of the year to where I was. And it was one of the reasons that I did it again this year, is because I felt like it was a growing experience, but a growing experience without the pressure of you have to do A, B, and C by this date, or you've missed your deadline. And I'm sorry to any Nancy's out there that I call her negative. It's just a word. I think my mother said it once and it just stuck with me.
It's really, they're kind words. It's a kind practice, because it, like you said, it's not pressure. It's like a nice friend, right? They're my friends. They're there for me every day, and they help support me, and it's how I look at the world, and sometimes how I look at very specific situations. But they're right. They're very friendly. They're not. There's no pressure, and they do change a little bit, right? They do change, and I keep messing with kindness, and I think sometimes I've got to go drive somewhere and go do something. But I think sometimes, kindness just comes out in different ways, and I just got to be, like you say, I just got to be okay with it. And maybe I did something that was kinder than I thought it was, right? I mean, you don't know, right? It's like Dina, your friend who made that compliment to you, and you're like, he has no idea how important that was, right? I could only hope that I've done things like that. But
I think it's important to remember too with kindness that sometimes kindness comes from inaction. So sometimes you are being kind by what you're not saying or by what you're not doing. In the situation with the car, you're not tracking someone down. You're not yelling about it. I mean, there's a kindness sometimes to the opposite side of it. And I think the other element of these words is the reflection. So at the end of the day, not just at the beginning of the day, but at the end of the day, how did I incorporate this? And I think Rob said it earlier, you might be surprised to find at the end of the day that you truly were kind at some point without even being realized. So I think sometimes our words might be more of a reflection than an action that you can kind of think about. But we forget sometimes that sometimes not doing something can be just as helpful to someone as giving a helping hand. I always think of it like my kids, me not writing their resumes or me not giving them $5 every day or whatever it may be is actually a kindness, even though they think it's not. But eventually it becomes one. I mean, that's kind of a mini version of a bigger idea, but that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Awesome.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, folks, thanks so much for coming back to this topic. We'll wrap it up. I'm Jim Peacock with Peak Careers Consulting. I started in 2001 teaching the Facilitating Career Development class. I have online discussion-based seminars for career practitioners. I used to have face-to-face workshops, but they're coming back. Amazingly, I've just got a contract for a state here in New England, and they said part of the deal needs to be, it is going to be face-to-face. And so I was all excited about that. Of course, individual career coaching. I'm author of a field guide for career practitioners. Actually, I should change that. Adventure of Finding Me in New Zealand is out. It came out in March. I just copied our January PowerPoint. So that's it is out and it's available. And if you are a career practitioner or person who delivers career services, feel free to sign up for my top 10 tips of working with an undecided person and get my weekly career emails. You can sign up at Peak Careers, and you connect with me on any of these platforms. Definitely a stronger presence on LinkedIn, but I'm out there on all of these. Thank you, all three of you, so much for circling back 6 months later. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks so much.
Good to see you all.
Take care, everybody.